Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. The night before National Day, as the whole family was preparing for our trip, my brother handed me a train ticket to the north. Poppy, there's no room in the car. You know, Elliot has never been away from us. I bought you a ticket. You can take the train and wait for us in Ho-Hote. I nodded, taking the small ticket. My brother let out a relieved sigh. He didn't know that I wouldn't be waiting for them in the north. I returned the ticket and exchanged it for one heading south. There, in my hometown of Jingning, were my adoptive parents and brother who had loved me like their own. This time I wouldn't be coming back. On the eve of National Day, the whole family was busy with preparations for the holiday trip. Mom started packing early in the morning and took my foster sister to the mall to buy beautiful clothes. Dad filled up the car with gas, and in the back seat, set up a cozy bed for my foster sister's poodle Snow. After setting it up, Dad paused and looked at me awkwardly. Poppy, I almost forgot there's one more person in the family this year. I'll take the bed down right now, and your sister can take Snow to the pet store for boarding. My foster sister Mandy's eyes were red, tears falling in big drops as she hugged the snow-white poodle tightly. Dad, Snow's never been apart from us since she was born. How about I stay home during the trip and let my sister take my place? I can stay at home alone with Snow. Dad frowned and refused outright. No, you've never been away from us. How can your mom and I feel safe with you home alone? Mandy bit her lip and nervously looked at me. What about Poppy? What will she do if there's no room in the car? Dad glanced at me, then at Mandy, momentarily caught in a difficult decision. One was my biological sister, recently found after being switched at birth. The other, though not related by blood, had grown up in our family. Both were dear to him. Seeing the difficulty in Dad's face, Mandy hugged the poodle tightly and stepped back, her tears falling like pearls from a broken string. Sorry, Dad. I was wrong. I shouldn't have pushed things further. Poppy is your and Mom's real daughter. I'm the one who doesn't belong here. I won't go. You and Mom can take Poppy and go on the trip. You and Elliot are the real family. Mandy cried uncontrollably, shaking as she clutched Snow and ran upstairs. On her way up, she misstepped and tumbled down the stairs. Elliot, my brother, rushed past me, shoving me aside. He sprinted and caught Mandy in his arms. Mandy was unharmed, but I slammed my knee into the coffee table, causing it to swell up immediately and ache intensely. I gritted my teeth, stubbornly standing tall. Mom always said we were the descendants of soldiers who shed blood and sweat, but never tears. Mandy, feeling as though she had suffered a great injustice, threw herself into my brother's arms, crying like a willow in the rain. Brother, I'm sorry for being the extra person in this family. I didn't want to make things difficult for you. You and Mom should take Poppy on the trip. I won't go. Elliot held Mandy tightly, frowning as he glanced at me before lowering his head and comforting her. Don't worry. Dad and Mom won't leave you behind. Neither will I. Mandy looked up at him, her tear-filled eyes searching his face. What about Snow? Can Snow come with us too? Elliot glanced at the poodle sitting beside him, then at me, his tone resolute. Snow is coming with us too. A gentle, heart-rending smile spread across Mandy's delicate face. But as soon as she saw me, her face turned pale. She bit her lip, unease flickering in her eyes. What about Poppy? Elliot turned and glanced at me, then lowered his head, whispering something to Mandy. Finally, having fulfilled his promise, Mandy smiled, hugging Snow and running happily upstairs. Before leaving, she gave me a mocking smile. I couldn't help but chuckle bitterly. Ever since I was brought back into the family, Mandy had done everything she could to prove that Mom, Dad, and my brother loved her more. But what she didn't understand was that I didn't care about their love, because I wasn't a child who lacked love. My adoptive parents and brother were wonderful people. They had given me enough love and courage. Seeing me silent and with my head down, my brother cleared his throat and walked up to me. His voice was both an explanation and an attempt to comfort me. Don't worry, we promised to go on the trip together as a family. We won't leave you behind. I'll figure something out. Trust me. Okay. I nodded slightly, not fully convinced. Honestly, I didn't want to go with them, but Mom had cried, saying that it would be my first trip with the family, and everyone was looking forward to it. But I didn't understand. Mom said she wanted to take me out, but her suitcase was packed with Mandy's things. Dad said the trip was meant to make up for the joy they deprived me of all these years. But when the seats were arranged, even Mandy's poodle had its own spot, yet they forgot about me. As for my brother, the day he brought me back, he hugged me with red eyes, promising to protect me and never let me suffer again. But just now, he didn't hesitate to shove me aside, just to catch Mandy in time. He saw the tears in Mandy's eyes, but he didn't see the bruise on my knee caused by slamming into the coffee table. It turned out favoritism could never be hidden. I never imagined that my brother's so-called solution would be to buy me a high-speed train ticket to Ho-Hote. Poppy, the roads are all congested during the National Day holiday. A self-driving trip is really uncomfortable. I bought you a train ticket. You can take the train there and wait for us in Ho-Hote. Don't worry, I got you a high-speed rail ticket. It only takes a little over 3 hours to get there. Faster than driving. Every word my brother spoke seemed to be desperately proving that he was doing this for my own good. But when I asked him, if the high-speed train is so comfortable, why don't you let Mandy take it instead? My brother's face suddenly changed, and he instinctively retorted, Elliot is not like you. She's been spoiled since childhood and has never even taken a bus. How could she take the high-speed train? I smiled. So, it's not that the self-driving trip is uncomfortable, but because the car at home can only fit your family of 4, plus that dog. You don't want Mandy to suffer, so you decided I should go alone by train to Ho-Hote. Seeing my brother's stunned, guilty expression, I suddenly felt like crying. I missed my brother. Not Elliot, the biological brother, but my foster brother who lived in the South. Elliot would never know that. In fact, I was also a girl who had never traveled far. There was no high school in the mountains, so for 3 years during high school I lived at school. I came home every Friday and returned on Sunday. My foster brother worried that a girl like me might encounter bad people on the road, so he would wait for me at the school gate every Friday when school let out. By Sunday afternoon, he would accompany me to the county town for school on the rugged mountain roads. When there were seats, I'd lean on my foster brother's shoulder. When there were no seats, my foster brother would let me stand in front of him. He would use his broad shoulders to block all unwanted stares. When I was first brought into the Elliot family, I missed my foster parents and foster brother so much that I video called them almost every night. At that time, Elliot even asked in jealousy whether I liked my biological brother or my foster brother better. At the time, I secretly felt guilty, thinking that I shouldn't be video calling my foster brother so often, as it might hurt my biological brother's feelings. But now I suddenly understood. It turns out that a person's favoritism can't be hidden. Just like how Elliot, between me and Mandy, would always unhesitatingly choose Mandy. And I, between Elliot and my foster brother, would always firmly choose my foster brother. We each have our own preferences. So I don't blame Elliot because I too am about to find my own brother. When I reached for the train ticket, Elliot breathed a sigh of relief. After thinking for a moment, he pulled out his phone and transferred me 5,000 yuan. There's a dining car on the high-speed train. If you're hungry, go to the dining car and buy whatever you want. The treat is on me. I was about to refuse when Mandy's sweet, playful voice came from above. Brother, didn't you say you bought me duck neck and duck feet for the road? We're leaving tomorrow morning. Have you bought them? Elliot looked up, gazing at her adoringly. My little ancestor, what have I ever not bought for you? I lowered my head and glanced at the transfer message on my phone, letting out a bitter smile. It turned out that the things Mandy wanted to eat, Elliot would personally go buy for her. But for me, Elliot would just transfer the money and let me buy it myself. Maybe he doesn't even know what I like to eat. But none of this mattered anymore. I was leaving after all. The next morning, the whole family was dressed in matching outfits. Seeing that I was still wearing the blue and white school uniform I'd worn the day I came home, my mother furrowed her brows in disapproval. We're about to leave. Why haven't you changed your clothes? I looked at my brother in surprise. Hadn't he told Mom that I was taking the high-speed train on my own? My brother froze for a moment. He seemed not used to the sudden addition of someone at home and the responsibilities that came with it. His tone was a little irritable as he explained. There's not enough room in the car for everyone, so I bought a high-speed rail ticket for Poppy to go ahead and wait for us in Ho-Hote. My mom was stunned for a moment, then glanced at me nervously. She scolded my brother. Such a big thing. Why didn't you tell me in advance? My luggage is all packed. Now I have to unpack and get Poppy's stuff out. You don't need to unpack, I reminded her kindly. The suitcase is full of Mandy's things, not mine. In an instant, my mother's face turned bright red like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. She stared at me with red-rimmed eyes. Poppy, sorry. Are you blaming me for not caring for you as much as I care for your sister? Sorry, Mom just isn't used to it. With you coming back suddenly. I suddenly have another daughter. Don't be angry. I'll change. Promise I will. Please forgive me, okay? My mom was crying as she looked at me. My dad walked over and pulled her into his arms, scolding me with displeasure. Just because of this little thing you made your mom cry. Poppy, where is your upbringing? Mandy suddenly rushed over, her eyes brimming with tears, desperately apologizing to me. Sorry. Please don't be mad at Mom and Dad. It's all my fault. It's me. I've taken your place. I wasn't even their biological child. The seat should have been yours. Please don't be angry. I'll give you the seat. Please don't fight with Dad and Mom, okay? They really love you. You're their biological child. Mandy was sobbing uncontrollably. Elliot clenched his fists tightly and suddenly shouted, Enough! Stop arguing. It's all my fault, Poppy. If you didn't want to take the train alone, why didn't you tell me earlier? Why make a scene in front of Mom and Dad? Now everyone is upset. Are you happy now? I opened my mouth about to explain, but Elliot, as if deflated, pushed me toward the car. Fine. This is no one's fault. Not yours, not Mom and Dad's. It's all my fault. Here's the deal. I'll give up my seat to Poppy. Mom and Dad, you take Poppy and Mandy in the car, and I'll take the high-speed train. How about that? Mom screamed. How can that work? The trip is over 10 hours, and neither Elliot nor I have a driver's license. Do you want your dad to drive all the way? Mandy also clung to Elliot's arm, pleading softly. Brother, Dad will be really tired driving alone. Come with us, okay? Besides, train tickets for National Day are so hard to get. If you go to the station now, will you even be able to get a ticket? Elliot hesitated and looked at me with uncertainty. Mom opened her mouth as if to say something, but in the end she said nothing. Only the guilt and expectation in her eyes were unspoken. I suddenly felt a sense of relief. It's good they decided not to have me. I can leave without guilt. Stop crying, everyone. I've already bought my ticket. I'll take the high-speed train, I said. Besides, brother's right. The drive would take over 10 hours, but the high-speed train only takes a bit more than 3 hours. I prefer to take the train. Brother suddenly tightened his grip on the car door, and Dad gave me a satisfied look, nodding. I knew it. Poppy grew up in the mountains. She's much stronger than our Elliot. Mom smiled too, holding my hand with a contented look. Poppy's such a good girl, always understanding. Elliot's been spoiled by us. Mandy shot me a jealous look, then suddenly walked over and climbed into Mom's arms, acting like a spoiled child. I've been spoiled by Mom and Dad too. So Mom, you must always spoil me and never leave Elliot behind. She pulled Dad and brother over to her side, making a bold declaration like a bratty child. Mom, Dad, and brother, you all spoiled me, so Elliot must stay with you forever. Wherever you go, don't ever leave me. Mom and Dad were beaming with smiles, charmed by her antics. Even brother couldn't help but show a doting smile. The four of them hugged each other tightly, as if they were the real family, and I was just the burden that had suddenly appeared, leaving them unsure how to face me. Dad checked the time on his wrist and urged, All right, it's getting late. Let's get going. Otherwise, we'll hit traffic on the highway. Mom took Mandy's hand, expertly opening the back door and settling in. Mandy's little dog lay contentedly in the spot that should have been mine. Seeing me standing alone at the door, brother once again felt guilty. He sat in the front seat, rolled down the window and called out to me. Poppy, be careful when you're traveling alone. If you're hungry, you can go to the dining car. I'll send you the hotel address soon. When you arrive in Ho-Hote, just take a cab to the hotel and wait for us there. Okay. I nodded obediently and turned to go upstairs. My luggage had been packed the night before. I only brought the things I had brought from home. The things Mom, Dad, and brother had bought me stayed behind. Those were luxurious and beautiful, but in the mountains they were of no use. I left the bank card Mom had given me and the spare keys to the house on the entryway table. As I opened the door and took a final look at the 5-story French-style villa, I realized, to my surprise, there was not a single trace of attachment, only a sense of relief and lightness. I took a taxi to the high-speed train station, returned the ticket Elliot had bought me, and with the refunded money, bought a ticket on the slow green train back to Jingning. I even had more than 100 yuan left. I figured out when I would get home and bought 2 cups of instant noodles and 2 sausages for myself. With the leftover money, I bought my father 2 packs of cigarettes, some liquor for my brother, and a beautiful silk scarf for my mom. The 5-hour ride on the green train was uncomfortable, and since it was National Day, I couldn't get a seat. But it didn't matter. Many people were in the same boat as me, only able to buy standing tickets. Whenever I got tired, I just found a spot on the floor to rest. As long as the road ahead led home, no one complained, no matter how hard or tiring the journey was. I sat in the corridor of the green train, hugging my luggage, feeling drowsy, when suddenly the phone rang. I picked up the phone, and to my surprise, the caller ID displayed Elliot's name. When I answered, Elliot's apologetic voice came through the speaker. "Poppy, I'm sorry. I told you to wait for us at the hotel, but when Elliot booked the hotel, she forgot that we now have an extra person, so we didn't book enough rooms. I called the hotel and they said that due to National Day, all the rooms are fully booked." So, I interrupted him impatiently, not wanting to hear his rambling. "So you might need to stay at a different hotel by yourself this time." Oh, by the way, Elliot has been crying, and she accidentally deleted your information, so we can't book a hotel for you anymore. Could you book it yourself? I'll transfer the money to you right away." I looked up and gazed at the familiar green mountains outside, then let out a low sigh. I smiled with a cheerful tone and replied, "No need." "What?" Elliot repeated, surprised. "I said there's no need to book a hotel. You don't need to adjust everything for me and ruin your family trip. I didn't go to Ho Hot. I changed my ticket, and I'm going back to Jingning." The sound of a phone hitting the ground came through the line. I didn't call again. After a moment's thought, I picked up my phone and blocked and deleted Dad, Mom, and brother's contacts in WeChat. I'm 18 now. Even if they're my biological parents, they have no obligation to continue raising me. I had agreed to go back because I had once helped rescue trafficked children, and knew how painful it was for parents who had lost their children. But after returning, I realized that instead of bringing happiness and joy to the family reunion, I had only brought the burden and pain of an extra person. Since that's the case, it's better to part ways, never to meet again. Mandy is doing well. Dad, Mom, and brother love her even more. That's good enough. On my way back, I took a photo of my train ticket and sent it to my foster brother. "Brother, I'm back." I thought about those 3 years in high school when every time I returned home, I would send him just those few words. I was so naive back then, thinking that if I sent more words I'd get charged more for the text message, so I was too scared to send anything extra. My foster parents' health wasn't great, and the family income, along with my school fees and living expenses, all came from my brother's salary as a forest ranger. During the winter and summer breaks, my brother would take me into the mountains to gather herbs, dig bamboo shoots, pick mushrooms, anything to make money so I could stay in school. It had been more than a month since I last saw him. Did he still remember me? Would he come to the station like before, riding his old motorcycle to pick me up? Would he resent me for leaving him and my foster parents behind for my biological parents? All the doubts and uncertainties disappeared the moment I stepped out of the station and saw that motorcycle. Tears welled up uncontrollably. Carrying my heavy luggage, I felt like a lost little wild boar. With a thud, I collapsed into my brother's arms. Brother, I miss you so much." My brother had been smiling, but when he saw me crying like a little kitten, his face immediately darkened. "Did they bully you?" It was obvious who they referred to. I instinctively shook my head, not wanting my brother to worry. But then I thought about it and desperately nodded, the tears falling in big drops onto his hand. "Yes. They all bullied me. They promised we'd all go out together, but even the dog had a seat, and I didn't. My own brother Elliot and that adopted girl they brought in. They all bullied me. They lied to me, saying I should take the high-speed train to Ho Hot alone while they stayed together. They didn't even book me a hotel. I had to find a place to stay by myself. Brother, will you take me home? I don't like them. I don't want to go back. My brother's eyes reddened and he tightly hugged me, his voice thick with emotion. Okay, let's go home. The three-wheeled motorcycle raced through the green hills. Breathing in the fresh mountain air, I couldn't help but sing the mountain song my mother had taught me. So what if Mandy can play the piano? Can she sing such beautiful mountain songs? And that Elliot. He's not even fit to match the dirt under my brother's nails. What right does he have to be my brother? I don't want to be the lost real daughter of the Elliot family anymore. I want to be who I am. I am a descendant of heroes. With courage in my heart, I dare to change the world. The little village halfway up the mountain looked just the same as when I left. At the entrance of the village, two ancient camphor trees stood side by side, their branches heavy with red ribbons of blessings. Aunt Wu was sitting under the tree peeling peanuts. When she saw us, she hurriedly grabbed handfuls of peanuts, one for me and one for my brother. Grandpa San, barefoot, had just come back from the field with some rush roots. With a smile, he handed me a bunch of them. Poppy's back. Here, take these. Let your mom cook something extra for you tonight. Gideon, the forest ranger, also came over carrying a dusty wild rabbit and handing it to me. Poppy, you've lost weight. I just caught this wild rabbit. Take it home and let Auntie cook it for you so you can get stronger. My brother elbowed Gideon hard and angrily growled, Get lost. Don't lay your hands on my sister. We laughed and joked all the way home, and by the time we reached the house, my arms were full of fruits and vegetables. In the yard, Dad was sawing bamboo tubes while Mom squatted on the ground washing cured meats. Our little dog sat beside her. The forced smile I had been wearing for the entire trip crumbled instantly in that moment. The fruits and vegetables I was holding fell to the ground. I threw myself into my mom's arms, crying uncontrollably with no care for my image. Mom, they all bullied me. I won't go to their house again. Never again. Mom wrapped her arms around me just like when I was little, gently patting my back, her voice thick with emotion. Okay, we won't go. We'll stay right here at home. We won't go anywhere. Dad put down the saw and walked over to the chicken coop. He grabbed a fat hen and smiled as he handed it to me. Didn't you think the food in the city was bad? You're home now. Let your mom cook something extra for you. That evening, Mom stewed a big pot of hen soup and cooked my favorite cured meat and bamboo shoots. 2 big chicken legs, one from Mom and one from my brother, ended up in my bowl. In the end, all of it was mine. The day after returning home, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. As soon as the phone connected, Elliot's furious voice came through the speaker. Poppy, where did you run off to? Why did you block the entire family? Do you know how crazy Mom and Dad have been looking for you? I paused for a moment, then sighed. Elliot, I'm home. Home? I called Auntie, and she said you're not even home. Oh, I meant my home, not yours, I explained. There was a moment of silence on the other end, and Elliot finally spoke, his voice strained. You went back to Jingning? Weren't we supposed to go on a trip together as a family to celebrate your return? How can we celebrate if you're not here? Elliot's tone was frantic, confused, and there was even a hint of fear that he probably didn't even realize himself. It seemed like I, his long-lost sister, had appeared for a brief moment and then vanished. Hearing Elliot's question, I found myself almost wanting to laugh. Elliot, stop deceiving yourself. If I'm not here, you all can sit in the car just fine, right? You said the whole family was going on a trip to celebrate my return, but why was there no seat for me in the car? And the hotel you booked didn't have a room for me either. There was silence on the other end of the line again. Just as I was about to hang up, Elliot spoke again. Poppy, are you mad at us? I nodded. Yes, I am mad at you. Elliot, if you had told me earlier that there was no place for me in that house anymore, I would have never come back with you in the first place. You know, my foster parents and my brother, they are good people and they care about me. So let it be. You can just think of it as if you never found me. Anyway, you have Mandy and I still have my dad, my mom, and my brother. On the other end, I could hear Elliot's heavy breathing, Mandy sobbing in the background, and my parents' increasingly high-pitched voices of accusation. I found it pointless to keep listening, so I ended the call. But I hadn't expected them to actually rush from Ho Hot to Jingning. After a few days, Elliot looked much more haggard, with stubble on his face. His clothes were wrinkled, and he looked like he had just gotten off the green train. My parents were with him, and behind them was Mandy, her face full of resentment. When Mom saw me in my old school uniform, holding a large bucket of pig feed, she immediately burst into tears. "Poppy, my child, why didn't you tell us if you were wronged? Do you know that when you left without a word, your dad, your brother, and I were almost going crazy looking for you?" Dad cleared his throat, his tone sounding like a reprimand but also an apology as he spoke gently to me. "It was wrong of Elliot and Mandy to handle the train tickets and hotel bookings. I'll have them apologize to you. But you too. You promised we'd go on a trip as a family, but just because you had some conflict with your brother and sister, you ran off without saying a word, blocking us all. Is that right?" "I think it's wrong too," came a voice. "We were all going to go on a trip together, and even the dog had a seat but Poppy had none. And you're still saying it was to celebrate Poppy coming home." My brother had suddenly returned from outside, walked up to me, and tightly held my hand. Dad and Mom were both flustered, their faces flushed from his words. Elliot too was embarrassed, especially since he had been the one to suggest that I take the train alone while he chose to bring Mandy's dog along. Mandy suddenly burst into tears, walked up to me, and attempted to kneel down. "Sister, it's all my fault. If I hadn't insisted on bringing Snow along, brother wouldn't have let you go alone on the train. If you're going to blame anyone, blame me. Dad, Mom, and brother are innocent. They worked so hard to find you, and Mom even spent so long planning our trip. I know you don't like me, that you hate me for taking everything that should have been yours. Sister, go ahead and hit me or scold me. As long as you can forgive Dad and brother, I'll accept anything." Seeing that I remained unmoved, Mandy clenched her teeth and, to my surprise, really knelt down in front of me. But the next second, she clutched her knee and painfully collapsed to the ground. "Elliot, Dad, Mom rushed over." Mandy let go of her hands, revealing a small wound on her knee from being pricked by sharp stones. Elliot's eyes instantly turned red. He lost control and shouted at me in anger. "Poppy, I've already told you it's all my fault, so why can't you let Elliot off the hook?" Mom, with red-rimmed eyes, looked at me in disappointment. "If I had known you couldn't accept Elliot like this, we never should have brought you back." "Fine, I won't go back then," I suddenly spoke up. The yard fell into a deadly silence. Mom covered her mouth, staring at me in disbelief. Dad's face flushed red, seemingly unwilling to have his authority challenged. Elliot coldly picked up Mandy and sneered at me. "Poppy, don't regret this." The family left in a rush, their focus entirely on Mandy's scraped knee. Brother clenched his fists in anger. If Elliot weren't my biological brother, I wouldn't doubt that he would have fought him today. Since I was little, brother had always been fiercely protective of me. Back when I was young, the villagers used to say I didn't look like my father and doubted that I was his biological child, speculating I was some illegitimate offspring from my mother. Brother would use his slingshot to smash the windows of those who dared to speak ill of me. In my third year of middle school, a boy who had dropped out of school often harassed me after class. When brother found out, he tied him up in a sack and broke both his legs. Since I was little, brother personally picked me up and dropped me off at school. Hearing that Elliot was going to let me travel alone by train to such a far place, he had long wanted to hit someone. Quickly stopped him. "Brother, forget it. Let's just end it here. Let's cut ties and never interact with them again." I've always known how to calm brother down. Sure enough, after hearing my words, brother's face softened a lot. At this moment, neither of us knew that we would soon meet Elliot's family again. At noon, while we were eating, the loudspeaker at the village entrance suddenly blared. "Forest rangers and militia comrades, urgent assembly. A fire has broken out on the front mountain. There are people trapped and need rescuing. Assemble immediately. Brother." I grabbed onto his sleeve in panic. Brother patted my hand reassuringly. "It's fine. I'll go there and come back soon. It's not like there haven't been mountain fires before." But as I watched brother hurriedly leave, an uneasy feeling suddenly gripped me. Why would there be a fire? It's not even fire season for the forest. Soon I found out why the fire had started. Elliot's family had been rescued by a few militia members. The leader, Hank, who was usually known for his good temperament in the village, threw Elliot to the ground and punched him with all his might. Elliot groaned, and blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. Mandy screamed and rushed over, tearing at Hank with all her strength. "How dare you hit my brother?" Hank, his eyes bloodshot, spat on the ground. "Because your brother is an idiot." Setting off fireworks in the forest, throwing a cigarette butt into the woods. "Can't you see the huge signs by the road? No fireworks. Are you blind? Didn't you see?" Mandy gave Hank a contemptuous look and pulled out her phone. "My brother only lit a few sparklers to cheer me up. How big a fire could it cause? Besides, even if it did start a fire, there's no one in the mountains. So what if a few trees burn? How much is that? I'll pay. You all are just a bunch of poor folks from the mountains, always looking to extort money. A few trees. What's it worth? 3,000 or 5,000? Hank rumbled with rage, pointing to the thick smoke rising from the mountain below, shouting, "A few trees! Do you know that because of your brother's cigarette butt, half the mountain below us is on fire now? Right now, all the firefighters in the city are rushing over here. Do you even know what's down there? There's a martyr cemetery at the foot of the mountain. It holds the remains of over 300 soldiers. Down there are over 1,000 households. If these people can't escape, you and your brother, no amount of death could repay what you've caused." Mandy's legs buckled, and she collapsed onto the ground with a thud. Elliot, his eyes bloodshot, struggled to stand up and rushed towards the fire. "I lit the fire. I'll go and save them." The flames grew fiercer, and thick smoke billowed into the sky. Mandy and Mom clung desperately to Elliot. "Brother, the fire's too big. You can't go to your death. They said the firefighters are almost here. Let them handle it." Hearing Mandy and Mom's cold, selfish words, the villagers were furious and nearly kicked them out. But most of the villagers were descendants of heroes, and their doors bore the glorious home plaque. We couldn't just stand by and watch innocent people die. Hank, with a serious expression, turned to me. "Poppy, I remember your brother took you through the secret grain road on the back mountain. You need to take the villagers and these troublemakers and retreat immediately." I panicked and grabbed Hank's arm. "But what about you? Where's my brother?" Hank paused for a moment and pointed to the area below where the flames were raging. "Your brother, along with the forest rangers from our village, have gone to the martyrs' cemetery. Your brother said that if they can dig a firebreak before the fire reaches the cemetery, the soldiers' graves will be safe." Hank's eyes were red, and his voice grew choked with emotion. "Those soldiers stayed behind in the wild boar forest to cover the villagers' escape. More than 300 soldiers died there. How can we let them rest in peace down there only to be burned by the fire again? We can't. We can't." The villagers had tears in their eyes. Everyone stood beneath the camphor tree, unwilling to leave. I ran straight home. There were 3 shovels and 2 hoes at home. I took one shovel, Mom took one, and the rest I threw in front of Elliot. "Come help put out the fire, or like a coward retreat from the back mountain. You choose." Mandy angrily stepped in front of Elliot, pointing at my nose and cursing. "Poppy, just because you're noble, just because you're great. Everyone already said the firefighters are coming soon. What's a common person like you trying to show off for? If you want to go die, then go by yourself. Why should my brother go?" I swatted her fingers away and coldly glared at Elliot. "Whether you go or not, it's up to you." Saying that, I grabbed the shovel and marched towards the secret transport path on the back mountain. This path was the one the villagers secretly created when the heroes were trapped in the mountains. They used it to sneak food to the soldiers. After all these years, only the village forest rangers knew of this secret path. Out of curiosity, I had once begged my brother to take me down this path a few times. Behind me, the villagers were chattering among themselves. "Those with quick legs, go with Poppy to the foot of the mountain and dig the firebreak. Those who stay, don't just stand there. Hurry up, boil water and make soup. Send some food up to the kids. Who has a pump? Hurry, get it out. We might need it up there." Mixed in with the villagers' dialect, I could faintly hear the arguing voices of the Elliot family. Moments later, Elliot caught up to me. I thought he would say he was coming to help put out the fire, but instead he hurried to my side and shoved a brand new train ticket into my hand. He grabbed my arm, his tone urgent. Elliot ran off and Mom and Dad went after her. "I'm worried about them," Poppy, this is the ticket I bought for you to go home. I originally planned to bring you back with me, but I'll go find Elliot once the fire is out. You take the ticket and meet us at the train station. Mom and Dad and I will wait for you there. You have to come. I took the ticket and, in front of him, tore it into pieces in just a few quick motions. The fragments fell onto Elliot's face. Along with them, my cold words struck like a whip. Elliot, you truly disgust me. Elliot left. Perhaps to him, those heroic soldiers who had died in the line of duty were nothing compared to the adopted sister he had grown up with. But ever since we were little, Mom had always told me and my brother that if it weren't for those brave soldiers who sacrificed their lives, the world wouldn't have people like me and my brother. In Elliot's eyes, Mandy was his family. But in my eyes, those heroic uncles whom I'd never met were my family. Flames burned above our heads, and villagers from 10 miles around carried shovels, drove tractors, and carried firefighting buckets and water pumps. One by one, the big trees were felled and the grassy fields flattened. When they grew too tired to continue, they'd swap out for fresh people to keep digging. Those who were relieved trembled as they held the food and tea the villagers had sent, gulping it down ravenously. Once they were full, they would rest and another group would take their place. From day to night, the fire on the mountain illuminated the sky above. But then suddenly, another faint line of light made up of flashlights, headlamps, and torches began to form and connect, creating a defensive line between the blazing mountain fire and the people below. This line would never retreat. We couldn't retreat because behind us were thousands of lives. We couldn't retreat because behind us were the very soldiers who had once protected us with their lives. Now it was our turn to protect them. Suddenly, the sound of an engine roaring in the distance reached us. It was a motorcycle. The young men from the village below had ridden their motorcycles up. On the back of the motorcycles, boxes of bottled water, buckets of instant noodles, and even chilled drinks wrapped in blankets were tied on. The forest rangers who had been burned by the fire were immediately taken down the mountain for treatment. At that moment, someone suddenly shouted, "Where's Gideon? Where did Gideon go?" My mind rang with alarm as I turned and ran towards the east. That way was the War Heroes Relics exhibition hall. I had seen my brother earlier leading Gideon and a few others going to salvage the war relics. I don't know how many times I stumbled on the over 100 steps, but the raging fire at the exhibition hall seemed to fill the air, turning everything in front of me into a haze of red. "Brother!" I cried out in heartrending desperation. But the only answer I received was the crashing sound of the collapsing rafters from the fire. My brother wouldn't die. He promised me he would protect me for a lifetime, watch me get married and have children, and become the uncle to my kids. "Brother, if you're gone, what am I going to do if someone bullies me?" "My brother won't die." I wiped my tears away fiercely, then jumped into the small pond in front of the exhibition hall with a splash. The next second, I was soaked and charging towards the fire. A large hand suddenly grabbed me from behind. Brother, are you all right?" "Thank goodness." I turned around and threw myself into my brother's arms, crying uncontrollably. My brother was fine, but Gideon, who had come out a little later, had both his legs crushed by the falling beams. After the fire was extinguished, we rushed Gideon to the county hospital. To our surprise, we ran into my biological parents at the hospital. When my mother saw me, she rushed over, her voice sharp with anger. "Poppy, why didn't you answer your phone?" I patted my pants pocket and forced a bitter smile. I lost my phone in the mountains while we were putting out the fire. A surge of anger and sorrow appeared on my mother's face. "Poppy, Elliot was right. You really are a disaster. Everything was fine before you came back. As soon as you returned, your brother's gone. And Elliot. What happened to Elliot? Didn't he go after Mandy?" I frowned. My mom covered her face and began to sob. My dad, who looked like he had aged decades in a single night, spoke in a low, somber voice. "Yesterday, Elliot ran into the mountains in a fit of temper. Your brother went to chase after her, but he stepped wrong and fell off a cliff. At the time, your brother was hanging onto a tree. We couldn't get down, so your mom and I desperately tried calling you to get help, but we couldn't get through. We ran back to the village to find people, but only the elderly were left. They said everyone who could move had gone to help put out the fire, and the few who stayed behind could hardly walk. We borrowed some rope from them, but by the time we got back, your brother and Elliot," She was bitten by a venomous snake. The doctors aren't sure which snake it was, and they can't find the right antidote. Now all they can do is provide conservative treatment. My mother cried so hard she almost fainted. But who could she blame? If it weren't for Mandy running around in the mountains, Elliot wouldn't have fallen off a cliff while searching for her. And if Mandy hadn't been bitten by a poisonous snake, this wouldn't have happened. Mom kept on cursing, blaming Dad for bringing me back. Dad rubbed his temples, his voice stern but quiet. Get a hold of yourself. Now that Elliot's gone, if anything happens to Mandy, we'll only have Poppy left. Mom's crying gradually subsided. But what does Elliot's family's extinction have to do with me? It was half a month later that we heard news of Elliot's family again. Brother had inhaled too much smoke while fighting the fire and had to be hospitalized for a few days before Dad, Mom, and I brought him back home. After a few days of rest, Brother, along with a few village rangers, went to the provincial capital to represent the entire village in receiving a government commendation. At the press conference, I was being interviewed by reporters when suddenly Dad and Mom burst in. Mom, crying, said to me, "Poppy, I know you don't like Elliot, but now that Elliot is gone, will you come home with us?" Dad choked up as well, saying that in this fire, both of his children had sacrificed their lives. Now I was his and Mom's only remaining bloodline, and he hoped that my adopted parents could return me to them. Hearing Dad's words, I couldn't help but laugh. Sacrifice? Elliot, do you know what the word sacrifice means? Or do you think that Elliot and Mandy, these arsonists, deserve to be called sacrifices? Hearing my words, the crowd was instantly in an uproar. What? Arsonists? Isn't this fire a natural disaster? Or was it man-made? Amidst the questioning, I saw Dad and Mom's faces turn frantic. I took out a video from the village's surveillance cameras. In the video, Mandy confessed that the fire was started because Elliot, in an attempt to cheer her up, lit a cigarette in a forest fire ban area and even lit sparklers. The cigarette butt, which wasn't fully extinguished, caused the massive fire that shocked the entire country. After watching the video, Mom's eyes rolled back, and she fainted on the spot. Dad's lips trembled as he looked at me with despair. Poppy, you are our biological daughter. Just because we didn't leave a seat for you in the car when we took your sister on a road trip, you're going to disown us now? You want to drive your mom and me to our graves? I shook my head. Elliot, even if I hadn't presented this evidence today, the police station would have retrieved the footage from the village cameras. As parents, you enabled Elliot and Mandy's reckless behavior when they lit that cigarette and burned the mountain. You should have realized that this outcome was inevitable. Elliot and Mandy were dead. My biological parents had originally intended to use this press conference to confuse the public, trying to portray Elliot and Mandy as innocent victims. But to their surprise, many villagers had installed surveillance cameras at their doorsteps, concerned for their elderly relatives and children while working away. The villagers, enraged by the near destruction of the martyr cemetery, sent the videos to the police station one after another. The evidence was irrefutable. The public opinion exploded. Damn, we thought these two siblings were victims, but it turns out they started the fire. How could the adults be so irresponsible? Sitting in the car while their kids played with fire in the forest fire zone, burning down the mountain. They should rot in prison. Don't let them get away with this. Elliot's parents were ruthlessly scolded by justice-seeking netizens, and they were about to face huge fines for starting the fire. By this time, I had already changed into my ranger gear and was patrolling the mountains with Brother. Every time we passed the martyr cemetery, we would place a bouquet of wildflowers picked from the mountains or bring some local snacks from home. I heard that when the heroes were trapped in the mountains, the villagers, just like us now, would secretly send food to the soldiers under the pretense of collecting firewood. Time flies and the world prospers. Thankfully, they're still here. Thankfully, we are still here.